From the beginning, it's clear how Jungkook has a very unique way of showing his feelings for Taehyung. He doesn't do it in an exaggerated or loud way, but with small actions that have a big meaning. One such moment is when he takes the time to fix Taehyung's shirt. Jungkook doesn't need to say much to express his feelings. And whenever Taehyung is around, Jungkook finds a way to connect with him. Even when there are many people around, his focus seems to be solely on Taehyung. In this case, with a simple action like gently pushing him or gesturing for him to look at him, it's clear that his intention isn't just to get his attention, but to remind him that he's there for him. The most important thing about this type of interaction is that it's not an isolated moment. It's something that happens frequently. It's as if Jungkook needs that kind of contact to feel close to Taehyung. And it's clear that this behavior comes from someone who feels deeply for the other person. It's no longer something hidden, nor limited to certain situations. It's a habit that shows how much that bond has strengthened. Moreover, these signs are clear to those who have observed their relationship for a long time. It's not about reading between the lines or imagining things. It's something that's obvious, that happens repeatedly, and that always has the same pattern: Jungkook finding a way to connect with Taehyung in the midst of everything. Whether it's fixing something for him, looking at him in a particular way, or trying to get his attention, there's always a detail that unites them in every situation. On many occasions, we've seen Jungkook change completely when Taehyung is around. His demeanor becomes happier and more attentive. There's one constant in all of this: Jungkook wants to be seen by Taehyung. His interest is strong, because he acts clearly to get Taehyung's attention. Whether it's with a glance or simply by being close, he always tries to stand out in front of him. A direct example of this behavior is when Jungkook adjusts his position just to make Taehyung feel comfortable. This isn't something you see with just anyone. He acts intentionally, seeking to make his closeness feel good. This isn't accidental, because it happens every time they're next to each other. And the clearest thing of all is that only with Taehyung do you see Jungkook so devoted. When Taehyung leans on him and Jungkook puts his arm around him as if he were his partner, there's no mistaking it. It's a gesture of affection, trust, and security. This way of touching and accepting contact is typical of people who are very close. It's a sign that there's a bond between them that needs no words. It's understood through actions, through looks, through the way their bodies fit together. Many might think this is part of a show or something staged for the public. But there's an important difference that can't be ignored: everything happens naturally. It doesn't seem fake or exaggerated. Everything they do happens in simple moments, without directed cameras, without the need to speak. That's why those who have followed their story for a long time, like Taekookers, quickly notice when something is real and when it isn't. And what there is between Jungkook and Taehyung doesn't seem fabricated. It feels sincere. In the moments shared between Taehyung and Jungkook, there are actions that make clear the special relationship they have. One example is when Taehyung naturally picks up Jungkook. He lifts him like someone holding something precious, something that doesn't weigh anything because it's done with love. That way of touching, of wrapping his arms around each other, of getting close without any prior warning, is part of a routine that needs no explanation. This specific gesture, where Taehyung picks up Jungkook, happens frequently. It also happens the other way around, when Jungkook does the same with Taehyung. It only happens when they're together, and they look for an excuse to get closer. That kind of contact doesn't happen by chance. It has a strong meaning, a message that needs no words. Being close, touching each other, caring for each other, has become part of their way of communicating. Furthermore, it's important to note that they don't do it in secret. Everything happens in front of people, with or without cameras. That confidence shows that their relationship isn't based on hiding, but on showing themselves as they are. There's no concern about what others might think, because for them, what's essential is what happens between them. That trust is evident in how one acts and the other responds without hesitation. The script also shows that it doesn't matter how many times these actions are repeated. Whenever they have the chance, they get closer, touch, and hug. This consistency isn't just a coincidence. It shows that there's no need for distance between them, but quite the opposite. If they can be together, they will be. This kind of physical relationship doesn't happen between people who don't have a solid bond. It requires security, understanding, and a special connection. The body speaks when words are unnecessary. And in the case of Taehyung and Jungkook, their bodies seek each other out without fear. That kind of language is learned over time, when two people truly know each other and understand how to make each other feel good with just an action. One of the most important aspects of the script is the way Jungkook and Taehyung behave in public. Unlike many other people who prefer to hide their feelings when cameras are present, they have been increasingly more natural. This not only shows that their relationship is strong, but also that they aren't afraid of being seen as they are. The script indicates that these moments between them used to be briefer and rarer. This may mean that they were more cautious before, or that perhaps they needed more space to understand what they were experiencing. But today is different. Today, you can see how both of them act without restrictions, without worrying about whether anyone is watching them. This change is very important because it shows that they no longer feel the need to pretend something that isn't real. When Jungkook acts affectionately toward Taehyung, such as fixing his clothes or making gestures to get his attention, he isn't doing something out of obligation or for the camera. He does it because it comes naturally to him. And that sincerity is something that shows. You don't have to imagine it, it's there, plain to see. These are interactions that can't be faked. And when something is repeated many times, it's because it's part of everyday life. Furthermore, the script mentions something very important. Many try to hide this type of relationship with false rumors and edits. But no matter how hard they try, what you see in their gestures, their glances, the way they look for each other, is something that can't be edited or invented. It's not a created story, it's a shared reality. And those who have followed their story for a long time know this well. This kind of mutual presence, this desire to be seen by the other, goes beyond a simple eye game. It has to do with a real need for connection. Jungkook doesn't want Taehyung to be looking at just anyone. He wants him to see him. This is evident when he looks for any excuse to get Taehyung's attention. And that becomes further proof of the kind of bond that unites them. One detail that stands out in the script is the way Taehyung and Jungkook communicate without saying a word. In many scenes, you can see how with a simple glance or a small movement, they already understand what the other needs. This isn't learned in a short time or acted out as part of a show. It's something that's built over time, with coexistence, with trust, and with feelings that can't be hidden. A key moment occurs when Taehyung leans on Jungkook and he places his arm around him, covering him as if he were his own space. This kind of gesture isn't part of an act. It's a sign of protection, emotional closeness, and intimacy. They do it naturally, without anyone asking them to. And that's important, because the difference between something real and something fake is how it's done. In this case, the naturalness is the greatest proof that they're not faking. It's also clear that, although many people try to turn their gestures into part of a spectacle or social media content, there are elements that cannot be changed. No matter how many rumors circulate or how many edits try to change what happened, the connection they display is based on repeated occurrences, on gestures that are already normal between them. And this consistency is what has made Taekookers easily recognize when there is something real between two people. The way they behave also shows that they aren't worried about who sees them. They act as if they are alone, even when they are surrounded by cameras or people. This is another clear sign that they are not faking. Because when someone acts for others, they take great care with what they do. But when someone acts from what they feel, they don't think about it. They just do it. This freedom with which they express themselves shows that their relationship is at a point where there is no fear or doubt. They don't seek explanations or try to hide. Nor do they expect others to understand everything. They simply continue to be themselves. And that has enormous value, because it confirms that there isn't a fabricated history between them. There's a lived history. Beyond the hugs and obvious physical gestures, there's another way Taehyung and Jungkook communicate their relationship. It's an invisible way, but easy to notice if you pay attention. In many videos and presentations, you see how one of them makes a movement and the other responds immediately. They don't need to say anything. There's a connection that guides them without planning it. It's like a dance without music, but with meaning. This type of behavior isn't learned. No one teaches them to move this way. It's something that emerges when two people are completely in tune. In the case of Taehyung and Jungkook, it's clear that one feels what the other needs. If Jungkook takes a step, Taehyung follows. If Taehyung looks in a certain direction, Jungkook does too. It's as if they're always attentive to each other, regardless of anyone else. This pattern doesn't appear just once. It repeats itself many times, proving it's not a coincidence. It doesn't matter if they're on stage or surrounded by people. When they meet, they create their own space. They focus on being connected, and it shows in every little movement. It's as if they're surrounded by a thread that unites them, invisible but very strong. It's also worth noting that it's not forced. It doesn't seem staged or exaggerated. Everything happens fluidly, as if it were the most common thing in the world. And that makes the difference. People who are faking something often repeat certain gestures in the same way, as if they were part of a choreography. But not for them. Each gesture is different, even though the message is always the same, they're connected. That kind of connection also allows one to stay ahead of the other. Jungkook doesn't need Taehyung to tell him what to do. He knows it just by looking at him. And Taehyung understands Jungkook just by feeling his presence. It's something not everyone can understand, but that Taehyungers have long recognized. Because when two people know each other so well, they don't need to speak to communicate.